Welcome back to the Mid-Year Mitch YouTube channel. In today's episode, we're making a lot of progress on the Centerfield 65 Corvette. I'm going to show you a quick and dirty way to remove the quarter panels without hurting the car, but the quarter panels may be a little scathed. And then I'm also going to compare a couple different methods to remove paint off the rear clip of this car. So be sure to stick around. I also just made a website, so go check that out and consider buying some merch. And now we need to replace the quarters on this. They're all screwed up. Someone had flares on here at one point, and it's just not worth trying to save these. So we're going to remove the quarters. So the first step is to expose the bonding seam, which you can see here. So we need to finish doing that with some 80 grit, and then we need to grind this bonding adhesive out, and then we're going to use hopefully the air hammer and just blast through here and take the quarter off without hurting the bonding strip or the rear deck. That's the most important part. So probably just going to start from one end and work our way back. So they're bonded on with the B-pillar. They attach at the floor, and there is a splash shield that goes right through here, and then back here at the taillight panel. So we'll expose all those seams and start removing the quarters. So I ground out the quarter panel to deck bonding seam, just using a death wheel. Just went in here and ground this. And then on the other side, Hunter went at it with a grinder. Piece of fiberglass is in there. Just went at it on this side with the grinder. So we should be able to get the chisel in there and just blast that out.
That's the chunk I threw at you.
Oh, and it landed in my gun. So I'll start on this side, see if we get the air hammer in this gap, try to blast it. So we got both quarter panels off pretty much in one piece. We had a couple little casualties with the bonding strip, but overall everything's in good shape. There's nothing that can't be repaired. So now we just have to remove what's left of the quarter and all the glue to prep it for the new quarter. But everything's in pretty good shape back here. That trick worked pretty good, either using the cutoff wheel or just using a grinder to come in here and clean it up. This one was a little bit different because it had flares, so they had some fiberglass in here, so you had to, in some areas, grind a good bit further to get down towards the bonding strip. But all this is still very salvageable. Took it off quick. That's probably not the best method if you want to reuse your quarter panel, but if you don't care about it and you want to get it out of the way, it worked well and it didn't harm the deck at all, and the bonding strip is definitely recoverable. So I'm going to attempt to remove the paint off the rear clip for this car with this kit I got off of Amazon. It uses your regular power washer along with some media, and you have a siphon tube, the tube that goes in your bucket, and this is the tube that makes the magic happen. So your pressurized water will come through here and will draw your media up through here, and in theory you should be able to have water as well as sand coming through there. And they even send you some real high quality safety glasses, couple hose clampulators, and some nozzles for this. So got to get this thing full gas, load up our media. I have a lid on there to try to keep water from getting in there and contaminating our sand, and we'll see how finicky this is. So the power washing is definitely getting somewhere. It's getting the paint off, it's just really slow. I think either this pressure washer doesn't make quite enough pressure or the media is too fine. I'm leaning towards the media is too fine. It really won't touch the original paint. I had some glass bead from our blasting cabinet. I threw that in and it started to strip away the paint and get it down to primer. So that will start to eat it. So I think I just need to get a different media to put in here. So I've been having a lot of fun stripping paint off the back of this. The pressure washer worked okay once I got the media to draw, but you know, it's very blotchy and it just didn't work super consistent. But it did work. It did knock off the really loose stuff, and it took, you know, 3 out of the 4 layers of paint off. It really didn't do much to this blue. So I went to the razor blade method and bought a 100 pack, and I've been using handy dandy vice grips as my holder. That worked pretty good. It's got enough weight to it that you really don't have to push on it that hard. It just kind of works. And then I've been using 80 grit on the DA to knock all this primer off. So I have almost all the paint removed off the rear deck, and it turned out pretty nice. There's still some stuff on the body lines and a little bit on the taillight panel, but it's good enough for now for me to start body working and to get quarter panels on here. So I think it's time to get quarters on here now. So just to summarize the paint stripping methods that I used, the power washer with the media blasting, it worked for the loose layers of paint on top. Didn't really dig too deep into the original blue paint. It didn't touch the primer. Once I got the right media, it started to do a little bit on the taillight panel, but it was very inconsistent. I got a lot of this off, but it just really wasn't working all that well. The razor blade method works really well. It just goes through a lot of razor blades and takes a while. And then if there's anything left, you can just sand it off. That worked good. You just have to be careful you don't dig into the fiberglass, but that's the same with the razor blade. You don't want to dig in. I've chemically stripped cars in the past, and I think that works really well. I'll probably do some of that in the future, but that technique works really well if you just use paint stripper. You strip, say for one day, you just want to do this area. You strip that area, and then you use lacquer thinner and steel wool to remove the primer, because the paint stripper softens the primer. If you leave it for another day, that primer is gonna be hard and it's not really gonna come off all that great. So if you do that area and you go a little bit further, that way you make sure you neutralize the paint stripper, and then whenever you're done with an area, you wash it off with baking soda, and you can clean it off with lacquer thinner before you do that as well. But you just wanna make sure that everything is neutralized, you don't damage the fiberglass, eat into it, and you wanna make sure that the paint stripper is gone, so that way when you put new paint on, it sticks to the car, and that way, you know, the paint stripper doesn't keep stripping all the new layers of paint and bodywork you do on top of that. So overall, that pressure washer worked okay for what I had to do. I don't think it would do much on the other body panels on this car, but the razor blade method, I think you can also use a heat gun in that to help soften it up, but this stuff was pretty flaky, so it really didn't matter too much. I still have to do a little bit of this body line, but it worked pretty good overall. But that's gonna do it for this video. If you enjoyed, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. In the next video, I'm gonna be putting quarter panels on this car from Vet Masters. That they fit really nice, so you're gonna have to stick around for that video. And also, check out the Mid-Year merch store and get yourself a t-shirt. And I got a lot of work to do, so I'll catch you guys later. Bye.